16, for I am not ashamed of the gospel, because it is the power of God that brings salvation to everyone who believes. First to the Jew, then to the Gentiles. For in the gospel, the righteousness of God is revealed, a righteousness that is by faith from first to last, just as it is written, the righteous will live by faith. The wrath of God is being revealed from the heaven against all the godlessness and wickedness of people who suppress the truth by their wickedness. Like I said, it's one continuous conversation. And actually, it's best to see it as a conversation. See, what Paul is imagining is this, like sitting across this church, Christians in Rome, and they're talking. And when he says something, he expects them to say something back, a response, a question. So he says gospel, and it's a very powerful passage, verse 16, 17. Great summation of the gospel, power of God to save everybody, righteousness by faith. And they're like, okay, but save from what? And then he goes on, from the judgment of God. What judgment of God? How are we judged? Now, that's the rhetorical question that he hears, and that's what he's answering. And behind the rhetorical question is this assumption. See, the Jews, they're like, we're already saved. We're the chosen people. We got the law, or we got circumcised, which is a sign of our relationship with God. We're good. Now, Paul will get to them, right? Eventually, and you'll see it actually in a very wise, almost crafty way he gets to them. But the Gentiles, that's where he goes first. The Gentiles have this line, they have their own line of defense too. They say, well, I didn't know. We didn't have the Decalogue. We didn't have the Torah. We didn't know, and so that's what we sinned. And so can God really hold us accountable to what we did not know? That's their line of defense. And Paul says, just outright, very direct, no. It's not that you didn't know, and so you sinned. You are sinful, wicked, and you suppress the truth. Now, you and I, we're familiar with this process. We do something wrong, a mistake, and we lie to cover the truth, to cover our mistake. It's very common, right? A young girl, she cut her hair, and, of course, out of curiosity. And then when her father came, her father was shocked to see her hair all cut, uneven to the ear. And he said, what happened? And the girl said, I fell down the stairs and the hair broke. We all lie to cover our mistakes. We saw the stop sign, but we thought there was no car, so we pressed the pedal, we get into an accident, and then in the accident report we said, well, we didn't see the stop sign. And if we say it strongly enough, we actually believe that, yeah, I didn't see the stop sign because the tree. We suppress the truth because we don't want to be found out. So this is what Paul says. It's not that you didn't know. You knew, but you lied because you didn't want to admit. In fact, it is said, one study said that all of us tell lies. One study said we make 2 to 3 lies every 10 minutes. Right? And we usually call them the white lies, right? Like, honey, do I look fat? No! This jean, I can't fit in there. The jean must have shrunk 3 sizes. How did that happen? Now, these white lies are necessary in one sense. Sometimes, that's one social psychologist says, this is the oil for the social machine. But that same person also says, the white lie and the big lie, the lethal lie, the lie that can bring danger, they're all in the one same spectrum. Because we can lie about small things, every one of us here can lie about the big things. And Paul says, even the biggest thing in the world, about God. And the Gentiles lie about God. God, I did not know. So then the question is then, okay, so we suppress the truth out of wickedness. Then Paul, are you saying then that we're all born wicked? Paul says, yes. We're all wicked from the start. Now the word wicked, wickedness, it gets us. Because usually it conjures up images of, I don't know, broom-riding witches, mass murderers, tyrants with sinister laughter, right? Wicked. We're not wicked. Well, the word wicked here is adikia. And it just means the opposite of dikia or dikaion, which is righteousness. So what Paul is saying here is this, that unrighteousness, out of unrighteousness, we suppress the truth. So we have to understand unrighteousness and conscious righteousness. And actually, I'm going to do a little thing here. If you look at, again, verse there's a play on words here. Paul is, again, it's a conversation, so he's going to try to persuade us, not so much through our eyes, college essays, but through our ears, by the words. And so if you were to hear it in Greek, it would sound like this. Verse 17, for in the gospel, the righteousness, the dikaiosune of God is revealed. Apokalyptetai, okay, that's Greek, okay? Or righteousness, the dikaiosune, that is by faith, fidei, right? The righteous, dikaio, will live by faith. Now, the contrast is the wrath of God is being revealed, apokalyptetai. So there's the gospel revealed, but before that, there's the revelation of the judgment. What is that? It is against all godlessness and wickedness, adikia, who suppress the truth by their wickedness, aletheia by adikia. So there's a play on word. And what he's saying over there is, see, we are born with this desire to break relationship with God. Now, Paul, again, you got to read the whole chapter, all of the letter, and you got to wait for the whole series to understand. But at its root, fundamentally, righteousness, this is what I believe is covenantal relationship with God. In other words, one who is righteous has relationship with God. They haven't broken it. But you see, all of us want to break that relationship. Why? Because we are selfish and self-centered. If there is a God in this world, then it's a God-centered world. And we do not want that. And so out of that, we suppress the truth. We don't want God. So we say there is no God. Aldous Huxley, there are atheists who admit this, in their moments of honesty. And Aldous Huxley say this, I have motives, he said this in one of his books, I had motives for not wanting this world to have meaning. And consequently, assumed it had none, and found, without any difficulties, satisfying reasons for my assumptions. The philosopher who finds no meaning in life is not concerned exclusively with the pure metaphysics. He's also concerned to prove that there's no valid reason why he should personally not do whatever he wants to do. For myself, the philosophy of meaninglessness was an essential instrument to liberation, sexual and political. That's his admission. He didn't want God. He wanted his own wild lifestyle. So he just denied God, and he found reasons to support that. Thomas Nagel, a brilliant philosopher, published at the age of 22, he says similar things. He says, I believe atheism is true, but am made uneasy by the fact that there are some who are intelligent and well-informed people, whom I know, who are also religious believers. It isn't just that I hope there is no God, and so naturally I hope I'm right in my belief. It is that I hope there is no God. I don't want there to be a God. I don't want a universe to be like that. We're born selfish, and so we want it to be a self-centered world, and a world with God is a God-centered world, and so we don't want that, so we suppress the truth. All of us are born wicked. Here's a quote from a Minnesota Crime Commission. So this is not a theologian trying to spew out dogma. Okay? And this is their observation. And I just want to read part of this. Okay? Again, the Minnesota Crime Commission. Every baby starts life as a little savage. He's completely selfish and self-centered. He wants what he wants when he wants it. His bottle, his mother's attention, his playmates' toys, his uncle's watch. Deny him these wants and he seethes with rage and aggressiveness, which could be murderous were he not so helpless. He is dirty, he has no morals, no knowledge, no developed skills. This means all children are born delinquent. If permitted to continue in their self-impulsive actions to satisfy each want, every child will grow a criminal, a killer, a rapist. Hard words, but this is not, again, from a theologian. It's from what they observed. We're born selfish. And if that is not somehow mended, all of us will be wicked in the images that you usually conjures up. All right, so, okay, we are born wicked. We don't want to be in relationship with God. We break it, and we suppress God, the truth about God. But then what truth are you talking about? Since, verse 19, since what may be known about God is plain to them, because God has made it plain to them. For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that people are without excuse. What he is saying over there is that God has made this plain. In other words, God is not playing some riddles with us. In fact, he goes out very clearly and says, God is the one who's made it clearly. God reveals. And this is a very bold statement. Jews, they have the special revelation. They have the laws. They know who God is. And the Gentiles say, but how do we know God? And then he says, actually, God also gave his revelation to you too. The word of God, which is creation. Now, granted, again, rest of the Romans, he'll explain this a little further. But he says, the creation of conscience is somewhat like a law to you. It might not be as clear as the Jewish law, the Torah, but it's clear enough to leave you without excuse. The creation reveals God's power and nature. Enough to leave us without excuse. And isn't it true? Right? God's creation, it's amazing. When you just stop and think about creation, how can you not say that there is a God? Right? Just think about the stars, innumerable, space, expansive, or even the smallest insect like ant, which we step on without thought. And these ants somehow organize themselves into complex societies. How do they communicate? There's amazing labyrinths. You know that DNA, it holds about 3 billion bits of information. We have 100 trillion cells in our body, a single individual. That means it's like 35 trillion gigabytes of information in each person sitting here. That's, wow, I mean, so much. Now, how is DNA able to hold all that? Well, it says that, DNA, the way it's coiled and it's so thin, if you were to uncoil it, right, and if you were to tie end to end, the DNA of one individual, okay, all the DNA is in my body, and if you were to tie it from end to end, it would be 744 miles. It will go to the sun and come back 4 times. Creation speaks clearly about God. Right? And when Paul says this, actually Paul is not being original. He's just going back and kind of accenting what was a minor note in the Psalms 19, right? It says, the heavens declare the glory of God, the skies proclaim the work of his hands. Day after day, they pour forth speech. Night after night, they declare knowledge of God. So all creation speaks of God. So even Albert Einstein, right, brilliant, obviously, and he himself did not adhere to any religious organization. And in fact, he said he's an atheist. But even as he said atheist, he said, still, I'm religious. I don't believe in a personal God where you pray and you answer, but I am still religious. And he says, in one place, try and penetrate without limited means, the secrets of nature, and you'll always find behind these discernible concatenations something that is subtle, inexplicable. And the veneration of this force, which is beyond any comprehension, is my religion. And to that extent, the point of fact, I am religious. See, even as he denied the religious organizations and relied the personal God, he still cannot get there's something that's so amazing and inexplicable and beautiful and subtle, and he has venerated. He has to worship. So God very clearly reveals himself to creation. I'll read you another person. This person was no scientist. He was a Vietnam soldier, and he wrote this poem and gave it to Reverend Zacharias when he visited them as a young evangelist during the Vietnam War. He's not going to win any poetry award, but there's a great honesty to this. Lord God, I have never spoken to you. Now I want to say, how do you do? I told you, no poetic awards, okay? You see, God, they told me you didn't exist, and like a fool, I believed all this. Last night from a shell hole, I saw your sky. I figured right then they told me a lie. Had I taken time to see the things you made, I would have known that they weren't calling a spade a spade. So if you would just take time to look, then it would be undeniable. There is a God. And the nature of God. God is good and desires relationship with us. 21. For although they knew God, see, they could see it, but they suppress it, and what they do? They neither glorified him as God nor gave thanks to him, but their thinking became futile and their foolish hearts were darkened. So we know that we suppress truth, the why, wickedness, self-centeredness, but how does it look in our life? In human beings, how does the suppression of truth look like? It looks like this. We don't worship God. We don't want to worship God. And now, worship, and how does this look? Okay, more specifically, it says, we don't worship God, we don't glorify him or give thanks. The word glory, from Hebrew term, means kavod. And kavod means, it's a metaphor, but it comes literally from weight, heaviness. And we use this as a sense of importance. And even in today's English language, we say, that's a weighty matter. That means it's a very important issue. So to give glory to God means to know the importance of God. That this God is creator, and because of who he is, he has claim over our lives. Now, to not worship is to deny that importance of God. That he does not mean a thing to me. And now, the symptom from this is this, lack of thanksgiving, right? He just lays it down very clearly. Because what happens is, if now you become the center of the world, then you become the center of values. So things are good or bad according to whether it's good or bad to you, whether it's beneficial. So at that point then, you choose what to give thanks. Right? See, so thanksgiving, by the very act of it, is to say that I'm not the center. I am dependent. And then to recognize God as another being as a center. But once we don't recognize God, then thanksgiving is sparse. So a good way to really test our hearts is this. Our lips. How often do thanksgiving come from our lips? Or is it laced with bitterness and complaints and gossip? They, out of their wickedness, suppress the truth of God. And the way they suppress the truth, they do not worship God as God and give thanks to him. Okay, then does that mean then people just then stop worshiping at all? No. You and I know that, right? We are creatures. We never give ourselves birth. Something gives us birth. We are always constantly dependent on life. So if we don't worship the Creator as God, then we always end up worshiping something else. 22, although they claimed to be wise, they became fools and exchanged the glory of the immortal God for images made to look like a mortal human being and birds and animals and reptiles. We end up worshiping something. And so that's why every culture, as you guys know, has some type of ritual in which they recognize something beyond them, whether it be a sun god, whether it be the veneration of elders, whether it be to loyalty to a tribe or a nation, whether it be to a company, having a boss dictate my life, being in an unhealthy relationship, abusive relationship. All of that is, one sense, recognizing something else as my God. I need this person. If I leave this, there's no other life. We are worshiping. Even in our secular culture, even if as we pride ourselves that we know so much, and so now because there's knowledge, there's no God, we always end up worshiping something. Whether we be glued to a social media for 2 hours and we don't even eat, that's fasting for the social media God. French Revolution, right? It rose from this sense of enlightenment, humanism, right? And they believed that religion was an old way of controlling the people. And so they got rid of it. And once the French Revolution in the late 1700s, they got the power, they made religion illegal, and they went all around and closed all worship. And here's the irony of it all. They went to all the cathedrals and they renamed it as temples of reason. And then they said, you know, we're human beings, is the center of the world, and that we don't need no God, and so that we don't need to have any worship. But then people worship still. And so what they did, they created the cult of reason. And then even Notre Dame, when they went to Notre Dame, they took out the altar over there, and they put the altar to the goddess of reason. And on the door, they wrote, to philosophy, they inscribed it. And then they had what they call a feast of reason. They didn't call it worship because that's when, superstitious people do. We don't worship, but we call it a festival of reason. And it was a long 2-hour procession and proceeding. And at the end, some woman came dressed up with the colors of France as a goddess of liberty. The thing is, they're so arrogant, they don't see the self-contradiction in all this. There is no God, they say. No, no, no. And then one of the leaders, and this was the rally crying, there's only one God, the people. You said there's no God. Yeah, we're just talking metaphorically, but now in the name of this one God, the people, and in the name of what this God teaches, right? Freedom, liberty, equality, and brotherhood, fraternity, they went around and they stirred what the historians call the reign of terror. Within the span of a few years, they used the guillotine to have heads roll. 17,000 in France. In Paris alone, 25,000 all around France. They call that guillotine the national razor. With even the slightest accusation, they would kill people in the name of their God. For liberty, equality, and brotherhood. We all worship. If you don't worship the Creator God, what happens is you worship things of this world. Right? Images, idols, fame, things that's created. We call that idolatry, but there's another name for that, when the created demands to be like the Creator. We call that demons. So where is this judgment then? Okay, out of wickedness, self-centeredness, we don't want God, we suppress the truth, even though God's truth is all clear. And so, but at the end, we worship other stuff. So then where's God's judgment in all this? Verse 24, therefore, God gave them over in the sinful desires of their hearts to sexual impurity, for the degrading of their bodies with one another. They exchanged the truth about God for a lie and worshipped and served created things rather than the Creator, who is forever praised. Amen. Because of this, God gave them over to shameful lusts, even their women exchanging natural sexual relations for unnatural ones. In the same way, the men also abandoned natural relations with women and were inflamed with lust for one another. Men committed shameful acts with other men and received in themselves the due penalty for their error. So what was the judgment of God? Was it something spectacular and supernatural? Did the fire come down from heaven? Was it a tsunami and that washed them off to the shore? Did they have pestilence and they had to claw off their skin? No. The judgment of God was, okay, do whatever you want to do. He gave them over to their desires. Permissiveness, judgment. Just letting them do what they want. That was their judgment. And that's a harsh judgment, isn't it? When I get together with my Asian friends, we have a common story, which is like, at 5 years old, my mother tried to make me play piano. That's like everyone's story. And then they struggled. And then some of them kept on playing, right? But most of them, they won. And the mother no longer forced them to play piano. And at the end of the story, they all had the same conclusion, which is, but I wish my mom didn't stop me. Right? It's always the thing, right? As a kid, it's like, okay, no more piano, do what you want. Like freedom, it's a freedom song. But actually, that's judgment, isn't it? It's like, okay, you just don't have what it takes. Now, not being able to play piano, that's not the end of life, okay, guys? So all you Korean people, right? The only piano piece you play is Mary Had a Little Lamb. It's okay. That's all right? It's not the end of life. But there's some type of permissiveness which is really dangerous. Now, when I was in high school, I had a friend who could drink whatever he wanted. He could play games all day, and actually at home, he could see porn magazines because his mom and dad was not there. His aunt was there, but the aunt didn't care. And I thought he had the life. I was like, wow. And he said one day to me, like, I wish I had your mother. And I was like, what? And I checked his head. I thought he had a fever going mad because my mom, she wouldn't even let me use a hairspray to spike my hair. So I would have to smuggle the hairspray to school and then do it in the bathroom. I was like, why would you want my mom? Well, it's because permissiveness is judgment. So we think that God saying, do this and do that, don't do that, and controlling and trying to protect us, we think that's judgment, but that's actually love and freedom. And we think doing whatever we want, that's freedom, but that's enslavement. And that's judgment. See, it's a severe judgment, really. It's worse than all the spectacular stuff. Because at the end, those spectacular stuff could bring repentance. But just letting them be. See, God's severest judgment to us is letting us do whatever the hell we want to do. Now, when we look at these sins, like, oh, okay, sexual liberty, but actually it's sexual exploitation, and we say, but, most of us, like, we don't identify with those things, we say, right? But honestly, I know there are people here struggling with sexual sins and addictions. But still, when we read these things, we don't say, oh, that's me. We say, that's them. Like in any movie, when you watch a movie, we never identify with the evil guy, right? Like Lord of the Rings, I'm Sauron. No, we don't. We say, I'm Frodo or Legoland, right? Legolas or whatever that good-looking elf guy is, right? I'm him, right? I don't have long blonde hair, but I'm him anyways, okay? That's what we do. So we say, no, that's not us, that's not us. But Paul says, wait, hold on, there's more. 28, furthermore, just as they did not think it worthwhile to retain the knowledge of God, so God gave them over to a depraved mind, so that they do what ought not to be done. 29, they have become filled with every kind of wickedness, evil, greed, and depravity. They are full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, and malice. They are gossips, slanderers, God-haters, insolent, arrogant, and boastful. They invent ways of doing evil. They disobey their parents. They have no understanding, no fidelity, no love, no mercy. Although they know God's righteous decree that those who do such things deserve death, they not only continue to do these very things, but also approve of those who practice them. And so we look at the list, and we'll still say, some of those things hit me, right? Gossip, okay. Slanderer, all right. Disobeying parents, okay. But still, we still say, no, because look at all these other things, like evil, greedy, depravity, that's not me. We still try to separate ourselves naturally. We think that these sins are still different, great difference of gradation, and so it must not be me. But Paul says, wait, there's more. Chapter 2, verse 1. You, therefore, have no excuse. You, who pass judgment on someone else, for at whatever point you judge another, you are condemning yourself. Because you, who pass judgment, do the same things. Now we know that God's judgment against those who do such things is based on truth. So when you, a mere human being, pass judgment on them and yet do the same things, do you think you will escape God's judgment? As Paul will come back to the Jews, and he does right here. See, all this time he's talking to the Gentiles, with the idolatry and all the different gods. And then because he speaks in third person, it kind of distances the reader, and the reader says, yeah, hit them, Paul. Like they're really enjoying this roasting. Like, yes, that's them. And they get higher and higher in the judgment seat. And then finally, chapter 2, verse 1, Paul makes a switch. And it's like you, second person, you. What? Who passing judgment? Me? Do you not do any of these things? Of course. Can you tell me honestly that of all the listers, that you are free of all the list of sins that Paul gave? And this is not even an exhaustive list. Are any of us free from any of the sins that Paul listed? And yet all this time we're thinking that that's those other people, the atheists, those who are not religious. So Paul gets the Jews, but with them Paul gets us. We are under the judgment of God. We judge, but we do the same things. Not everything. No one commits all these sins. I don't think so. But we all do some of these sins. I'm talking about us, who might have grown up in the church, went to Sunday school, memorized all the Bible verses, John 3:16, went to youth group, really enjoyed it because, hey, they're like us, and it's a fun place to hang out, went campus ministry, and did mission work, and became a member, and became a deacon, and became an elder, and became a pastor. Do we not even now commit these sins? Although sexual perversion, maybe we can avoid it, but do we not lie and manipulate to get our things the way we want it? Have we not gossiped about a person here? You are under judgment. You are under judgment. You are under the judgment of God. How do I know? Because I am under the judgment of God. But here's the good news. We don't have to wait for the next chapter next Sunday, okay? I'm not going to just leave you here, okay? Right? Of course, we'll be all fleshed out a little bit more, but here's the good news. It is only those who are judged who can be justified. If you're not judged and you deny that you're judged, then you cannot be justified, made right. But if you're judged and you accept that it is I who forsook God. I did not want God in my life. I say I worship, I sit in the pews, but honestly, I don't worship. I worship God when it's beneficial to me. He must fit my schedule. I give thanks when He answers my prayers. He's not that important no matter how much lip service. If I accept that I am the one who's judged, then I can also be open to receive the justification of God. What's the justification of God? God restoring our relationship. We say, I don't want you, God. I don't want you to be my God. I'm not going to worship you. Justification is God's work and said, I still want you. I am your God, and I desire your worship. And to trust that is to turn to Him and says, thank you for never leaving me. I wish to worship you. One of the best ways to receive the gospel, to celebrate the gospel, to affirm in your life is to worship. And you say, God, you are God. You are the most important being in my life. And to give thanks. My friend has a 7-year-old boy. And one day, he was playing with the baby sister, and he would not share his toy. And so the mother said, I'm going to teach him a lesson. Said, okay, here's the house rules. You cannot keep any toys you are not willing to share. He said, it's not fair, it's my toys. That's the house rules. That I'm going to leave this house, I'm going to run away. And the mother went into the room, packed a few of his toys in the book bag, put it in his foot, and says, go. Now, she thought that, he would get scared, like, wow, she really means it. I was just talking. And so, she was bluffing. But this boy said, fine, put the backpack on his back, and walked out. He called her bluff. She was shocked. But of course, she's not going to let it be. She's not going to back down and say, I was just joking. But she walked with him. And she went out, and it was night, and they lived in a suburb, tall trees, bending down, almost foreboding. And they just walked for 10 minutes or so, and it was getting cold, and said, okay, tenderly, but with firmness, said, look, it's getting cold. Let's go home. Let's eat dinner. She said, I'm not going to. I don't want to go back to your house. He said, then where are you going to go? He said, I'm going to go to one of these houses. Who's going to take you in? Someone will. And so he went and actually knocked on one of the neighbor's doors. She was shocked. But of course, she cannot just go grab him. She didn't want to back down, so what she did was she hid behind the bush and see what's going to happen. Knocked, an elderly couple came out. Oh, hi. And then he said, do you want to adopt me? And now they were flabbergasted, like, what? Right? And then there was the mom behind, right, doing charades, explaining, and them being mom understood, being parents before, understood what was happening. So they said, no, we don't adopt kids who disobey their mom and run away. No, thank you, and closed the door. Shoulders dropped. He started coming back. And that's when the mom came back and pretending not to know anything, said, so what happened? They didn't take me. Come on, let's go home and eat. And for a while he paused, and he said, okay. And they just went back home. And they're still together. That's the gospel. See, God permits, to a certain extent, our sinfulness. That's our judgment. But you see, just like that mother, God has never left us. He followed, and He followed. He never disowned. And once we just turn around, and when we just come back, He's there already. Not begrudgingly accepting us, but throwing a kiss and a party. Remember the prodigal son story? The son thought that because he disowned his father, the father disowned him, so the only way he could go back is as a slave. But before he could make his confession, before he could finish it, there's a father. Bear hug. Saying, throw up the biggest party. Get that fattened calf. My son has come back. That's the gospel. So I speak to you, religious people, under the judgment of God. This morning, would you turn to God? For God is turned to you and desires to be your Father, has never forsaken you, and desires your worship. Let's